She was a black woman dressed as a sick white man. He was her husband, walking 2 steps behind, playing the role of the obedient slave, and together they rode trains, checked into hotels, and walked straight through the heart of the slaveholding South in broad daylight. Ellen Craft was born in Georgia in 1826. Her mother was enslaved. Her father was the man who enslaved her. That fact hung over Ellen's entire childhood. Her light skin made strangers mistake her for white, sometimes even for family, but she wasn't family, she was property. And her enslaver's wife, uncomfortable with the daily reminder of her husband's betrayal, eventually gave Ellen away as a wedding gift to a daughter living in Macon, a human being, gifted, like a piece of furniture. William was born in 1824, and his story carried a different kind of wound. His family had been sold apart, separated piece by the same system that treated people like ledger entries. By the time he and Ellen met in Macon, he knew exactly what slavery stole. Not just freedom, family, identity, the future. They fell in love, they married, though marriage between enslaved people had no legal standing, no protection. Any child they had would be born into chains. Their enslaver could sell William tomorrow and Ellen might never see him again. That knowledge lived with them every day. So they started to dream, carefully, quietly, dangerously. Ellen's appearance gave them the seed of an idea. William, skilled as a carpenter, was occasionally hired out and allowed to keep a small portion of his wages. Ellen saved what she could too, coins set aside over months. They rehearsed. They planned in whispers. They waited for the right moment. The plan, when they finally committed to it, was almost unthinkable. Ellen would disguise herself as a wealthy white gentleman, a sick one, traveling north for medical treatment. William would play the role of her enslaved attendant. A sling on her arm would explain why she couldn't sign hotel registers, since literacy among enslaved people was illegal, and Ellen hadn't been taught to write. Bandages around her jaw would discourage conversation. Green-tinted glasses would hide her eyes. On the morning of December 21, 1848, they left separately. William first, Ellen following. They boarded a train in Macon, Georgia. Within the first hour, Ellen found herself sitting beside a man who knew her enslaver personally. He tried to make conversation. She played deaf, kept her eyes forward, and didn't flinch. That was just the first hour. Over the next 4 days, they moved through Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, trains, steamboats, hotels. At one point, a suspicious officer nearly refused them boarding, until another passenger vouched for the quiet, ailing gentleman he'd observed during the journey. William, meanwhile, was navigating his own gauntlet, riding in the segregated car, being spoken to like property, watching his wife perform composure on the other side of a wall, with no way to reach her if something went wrong. They couldn't speak freely, couldn't comfort each other, couldn't slip for a single second. On Christmas Day 1848, they arrived in Philadelphia, free. But freedom didn't mean safety, not yet. The Fugitive Slave Act meant that even in the North, they could be legally seized and dragged back to Georgia, and their former enslaver wasn't willing to let them go. Bounty hunters came to Philadelphia, wanted posters went up, the threat was real and close. In 1850, William and Ellen fled to England, and there, something shifted. They weren't just survivors anymore, they were speakers, authors, abolitionists. They stood in front of packed halls across Britain and told their story, in detail, without flinching, to thousands of people who needed to hear it. In 1860, William published Running 1,000 Miles for Freedom, a precise and devastating account of their escape. It was read on both sides of the Atlantic and put a human story to something slaveholders needed people to think of as abstract. They raised 5 children in England, in freedom, for nearly 20 years. Then, after the Civil War ended, they came home. Not in chains, as educators. They returned to Georgia and opened a school for newly freed black children, quietly dismantling one student at a time the same system that had once tried to own them. Ellen died in 1891, William in 1900. They had outlived the institution that tried to define them. The Crafts' escape was more than a personal victory. It was proof, undeniable and documented, that the racial hierarchy holding up the entire institution of slavery was not natural, not fixed, not unbreakable. It was a performance, and Ellen outperformed it. Systems built on dehumanization depend on people believing they're permanent. William and Ellen Craft are a reminder that they never are. No weapon, no rank, no protection, just a jar buried under an apple tree and 2,500 names she refused to give up, even under torture. If she had talked, thousands of lives and identities could have been lost forever. Next time, the story of Irina Sendler.